As Ferrari prepares to return to Imola, much of the attention is on Lewis Hamilton and the long-awaited upgrades that could save his struggling first season with the team. While Hamilton and Charles Leclerc agree that the SF25 has underlying performance potential, they both acknowledge that something is essentially holding the car back. With the team announcing only a minor tweak for Imola, despite earlier predictions of a major revamp, the question is whether this incremental change will be enough to turn Ferrari's fortunes around. Will these upgrades preserve Hamilton's season, or are they too late to matter? Let's get into the whole story. Lewis Hamilton enters the Imola weekend looking for answers, and he may not find them just yet. Despite displaying signs of competitiveness early in the season, Ferrari's growth has stopped. Initially, rumours were that the Scuderia will bring significant improvements to their home race. However, according to team manager Fred Vasseur, Imola will only take a small step in development. That is not the news Hamilton or Charles Leclerc were hoping for, following a disappointing Miami GP that showed the SF25's major flaws. Will these upgrades be enough to jumpstart Hamilton's season? Will they arrive in time to mount any form of charge in Imola? Let's look at what's next for Ferrari and whether their 2025 campaign can still be saved. Ferrari needs to work more if they want to close the gap on Mercedes and Red Bull, much alone McLaren. Upgrades are planned for Maranello, however there may not be any immediate solutions. In the very early stages of the season, Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur commented about the SF25's potential. As for everyone in the team, now more than ever, we must focus ourselves with the goal of enabling Charles and Lewis to consistently exploit the full potential of the SF25. Because so far, we have only managed to do that on Fridays and the sprint in China. These were Vasseur's thoughts prior to the Japanese Grand Prix, when he was certain that more performance might be unlocked. Since then, however, evidence suggests that the team's main constraint is pure velocity. This is not to imply that Ferrari hasn't acknowledged setup errors that have jeopardized their performance. However, their loss to McLaren cannot be attributed completely to this. Despite being the first squad to introduce major advancements in 2025, the SF25 remains rather unremarkable in many aspects. Given that Mercedes and McLaren have yet to make improvements, this stagnation is concerning. According to Gazzetta, Ferrari will not make any big upgrades for the next two races in Imola and Monaco. After making some changes, the Italian team must wait until the Spanish Grand Prix, when the FIA's FlexiWing guideline will be applied, to receive reinforcements. This could compel Ferrari to accept damage restriction, at least for the time being. Like most teams, the Scuderia's 2025 campaign could be determined by the FIA's future technical directive. However, a mid-season setback to McLaren in Spain may not be enough to save Ferrari. The budget cap and wind tunnel restrictions have made F1 substantially more competitive in recent seasons. Although some midfielders are still catching up with the larger teams in terms of infrastructure, the sport is currently on a much more even playing field. Simultaneously, these constraints leave teams with very limited room for error in development. If an upgrade package does not precisely correlate with factory data, it may take months to compensate for the error. In this sense, Ferrari's problems could worsen through 2025. Over the winter, the Scuderia decided to replace their front suspension. Surprisingly, Haas, who sources many of their parts from Ferrari, chose not to make this adjustment, instead sticking with their pushrod suspension. Given that Vasseur's team made substantial adjustments over the winter to construct the SF25, there are questions regarding the car's inherent limitations. If the team went in the wrong direction over the winter, they have very little time to recover, especially in comparison to McLaren. The team's double DSQ in China demonstrated that, despite pushing the limits of setup, Ferrari is behind the competition. With upgrades not expected for a few more rounds, and faith in these updates low, the Maranello squad faces another difficult patch. Just 2 weeks after it was announced that Ferrari will bring a significant upgrade to Imola, Fred Vasseur said that it will now only be a small step. That will bother Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, who both complained about the SF25's pace at the Miami Grand Prix. Neither teammate was pleased with the car's performance at the Miami Autodrome this weekend, despite Hamilton returning to the podium in the sprint when he finished third. However, in qualifying for the Grand Prix, the 7-time world champion was unable to go beyond Q2, where he finished 12th fastest, while Leclerc was 8th on the grid. The Grand Prix went slightly better, with Leclerc finishing 7th and Hamilton 9th, although the Britain's radio message was mostly negative about his car's pace and his race engineer, Riccardo Adami. After the race, he told the media that he believes the car has great performance. "We're simply not. Something is keeping us back right now. We've lost performance since China. It's there, it's just we can't use it. So we need a fix for that. I truly believe that when we fix some of the problems that we have with the car, we'll be back in the fight with the Mercedes, with the Bulls, and it just can't come quicker," he added. That repair, however, is unlikely to be in place for the following event, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Last month, it was rumored that Ferrari, led by technical director Loic Serra, planned to bring a significant aerodynamic improvement package to the Imola track. However, stories of reshaped side pods and a redesigned floor appear to be exaggerated, since it is now stated that, despite Imola being the first of Ferrari's 2 home courses, there will be only minor changes. According to Italian daily Gazzetta dello Sport, Ferrari will offer something new to Round 7, but not too much, because it will be important to reconcile aspirations with the schedule. The schedule sees Ferrari and its opponents race in Imola, Monaco, and Spain, with the third event marking the introduction of a revised technical directive aimed at reducing the impact of flexible front wings. Depending on how flexible the car's wing has been up to that point, this could affect the rest of the car's aerodynamics, necessitating additional alterations. Fred Vasseur, Ferrari team principal, hinted to this in Miami. "There will be updates for Imola, but it's not just about development," stated the Frenchman. "It's about finding the best compromise with this car. We definitely have a small step planned for Imola, then another one for Barcelona, but the most important thing is to put everything together. Imola will likely suit us better than Miami, because we struggle a lot in low-speed corners." This isn't the first time Vasseur has been hesitant about changing the car this season. Luigi Mazzola told Sky's Race Anatomy that he takes a totally different approach than former Ferrari team head Mattia Binotto. The former Ferrari engineer is concerned that the potential isn't there in the SF25. "The motto has changed a bit," he explained. "When Mattia Binotto was around, we needed to understand. Now, with Fred Vasseur, we need to search. And they're searching for this blessed potential without managing to find it, because it isn't there. Let's be honest, the 2 drivers are convinced of it, and the performance is what it is." Also, every time Fred Vasseur is asked about updates, now we talk about Imola and Barcelona, he puts them in the background. "I have this doubt, and I hope I'm wrong, that the updates coming will be very little. That's why he prefers to shift attention to the potential, even though it no longer aligns with what the drivers are saying, and the situation seems disastrous for him." Over the winter break, Ferrari was largely viewed as the favourites to challenge McLaren for this year's championship. The Maranello squad was arguably on par with McLaren by the end of 2024, thanks to an extremely effective development programme. Ferrari's troubles with the SF25 were unexpected given last year's momentum. With a quarter of the 2025 season completed, the Scuderia's window of opportunity to recover is quickly closing. Like other teams, the first set of enhancements introduced in 2025 were originally intended for the end of 2025. As a result, Ferrari's SF25 development assumptions must be reassessed, raising uncertainty regarding their future direction. This raises the question of whether the Maranello factory's future enhancements can generate enough downforce to put significant pressure on McLaren. Beyond the incumbent champions, Red Bull and Mercedes have additional upgrades on the way. Neither team introduced improvements as swiftly as Ferrari, raising concerns about Vasseur's team's performance. If Christian Horner and Toto Wolff's team progresses, they will be best positioned to profit on McLaren's potential regress following the FIA's FlexiWing directive. Despite the difficult circumstances, Fred Vasseur remained optimistic about the team's season trajectory. Similarly, the Frenchman refuses to panic despite the SF25's dismal performance thus far. His thoughts following the Miami Grand Prix are characteristic of his worldview. "We didn't quite get the balance right this weekend, particularly yesterday in qualifying, and then today we struggled in the middle of the group with little chance to secure a better result than this. When we were in free air, we were close to Mercedes and Red Bull in terms of pace. After a race like this, there's obviously a sense of frustration. But we need to stay focused and keep working hard in order to address the issues, dealing with our limitations step by step." On the strategy front, our calls were right. We pitted both our drivers under the virtual safety car, and this allowed Lewis to run behind Charles at the restart. Then we swapped the cars as soon as we were sure we were not putting Charles at risk from the cars behind. Lewis was on medium tyres, and we wanted to catch Kimi Antonelli. It didn't work, so we reversed the call at the end as per our standard procedure. The stakes for Ferrari entering the European part of the season could not be higher. While incremental advances are predicted for Imola and Barcelona, McLaren's soaring form has already put the Scuderia under tremendous pressure. Hamilton's evaluation of the SF25, that something is holding it back, says a lot, especially as internal confidence in the car's genuine potential wanes. If the imminent technical directive in Spain alters the competitive landscape, Ferrari must be prepared to capitalize. However, unless the Imola enhancements result in a significant performance improvement, the squad risks falling further behind. With rivals like Mercedes and Red Bull quickening their development, and McLaren showing no signs of slowing down, Ferrari's margin for error is rapidly decreasing. Imola must be the start of a resurgence. Otherwise, Ferrari's title aspirations will fall to 4th place.